Okay, this is a two-part episode. You listened last week. We're in the same clothes, we're in the same conversation, but this is a week later. Hannah Dunning here for a second week, second episode to talk in more detail. People are saying, okay, we've been talking about your story and how the loss of your grandmother to breast cancer started you on this journey, and you are all about trying to educate people and get regulation toward the safety and the toxicity that it's in our clothing, and educating people about how they can be safer in their own skin, in their own clothing. So thanks for being here again, Hannah.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's dive right in, because I'd imagine last week people were saying, okay, well, what clothes and what do we do and how do we do this? So we're going to dive right in. Let's talk specifically. And if you haven't watched everything, make sure that you catch last week's episode to know where we're at to follow us. In a nutshell, give me a 1 minute about what we're going to talk about, and we're going to start with bras, because you were talking about your grandmother's breast cancer was one of the
Mm.
inspirations for you doing this legacy work.
Yeah, I think what I stress to everyone who will listen is we do not have regulation in clothing. End story. That is a crazy concept that doesn't exist in any other industry I can think of, especially when you're putting on your body. So, what you need to know is that we have one regulation for kids' clothing, and it has to do with lead. Okay, you're not allowed to have a certain amount of lead in children's clothing. You can put it in any other kind of clothing, just not kids. And then the other sort of semi-regulation is around fire retardants, where they're actually wanting or making pajamas with fire retardant capabilities, which are also really bad for you. So it's actually a reverse regulation that makes clothes more dangerous. So what you need to know is nothing is protecting you other than yourself. And when it comes to bras, the reason why I stress that point so much is, yes, because I have a personal tie to breast cancer, but also because that is your most vulnerable place as a woman, especially when it comes to chemicals. Whether you're breastfeeding or not, you have estrogen receptors in your breasts that are constantly searching. They are literally there to find estrogen and to bind to it. And so, what scientists accidentally created when they started using polymers and plastic is fake estrogen, or rather chemicals and plastics that mimic estrogen. So your breasts are searching for it and accidentally bind with this fake thing that your breast thinks it needs, when actually it's the thing that throws your entire hormonal balance completely out of whack. It's poison essentially to your breasts specifically. So we have other hormone receptors throughout our bodies, but by far estrogen receptors especially are most located in your breasts. That's not even touching on breastfeeding, right? And that's a whole nother thing that is
That's
just
another
really,
episode, right? Okay.
it's a whole nother episode. So, but what you need to know in a nutshell about that is we're finding crazy stuff like PFAS in breast milk. Okay. And there's lots of different areas where you can find PFAS or ingest them or what have you, but they are not
For people
regulated.
who don't know what that is, including me.
So the polyfluoroalkyl chemical, like there's a whole bunch of different kinds of chemicals that don't belong, but what you need to know about PFAS specifically is they never leave. They're forever chemicals. Nothing you can do to get rid of them. They accumulate in the body and they make you really sick. And a huge most places are going to regulate in terms of, or rather most industries are going to regulate PFAS in some way, but clothing, they're completely legal and frankly very popular in things like water repellent finishes. So a sports bra.
Mhm.
Think about nursing bras. Those are also oftentimes stain resistant. All that means is toxic chemicals and likely PFAS. We don't necessarily have great technology today to keep that breast milk from not soaking into the material, right? So the only trade off right now, at least on a commercial standard, is PFAS or other chemicals to prevent the breast milk from staining the bra or what have you. So it is a trade off. That is why I focus on bras. It is your most vulnerable place. And then I go to underwear next.
Okay, so let's talk about bras then, because you're going to tell me, because I've been watching you on Instagram, that cotton bras, organic cotton bras, are of vital importance. Now, one of the things that I like that you said, because we're going to feel overwhelmed for a moment here, or for a while, is you talked about barriers between, like, sometimes you're going to wear clothes that are, you're going to wear a cute dress, you're going to wear it, and it's going to have some things in it, but the clothing that's touching these parts of our body, like our private areas, our breasts, our private areas, are really important to make sure that those are the cleanest things we're wearing because
Hmm.
it's touching those parts of us. So bras, cotton, organic cotton.
Organic cotton.
And are those hard
Cotton,
to find? Because I went looking, they're pretty hard to find.
it actually shocks me every time somebody asks me for a bra recommendation. It shocks me how little there are, frankly.
Mhm.
I can't believe that 52% of the world is female, and we don't currently, at least for one I've found, have like a perfect option in terms of
Right.
material, but also support, right? Functionality. We're Whether you like it or not, we're going into boardrooms where we want a shaped bra,
Yeah.
and it's virtually impossible to find. So again, it blows my mind. You can find a lot of options that are bralette style, 100% organic cotton, and that's great for a lot of women. And I love the companies making those because they are, fighting the good fight. I just think we can do better too.
Yeah. And so when you talk about putting something between you, like I see in your Instagram post, you wear a lot of cotton t-shirts.
Hmm.
And you're in Hawaii, so that's easier to do, right? So talk about the fabrics that you are that are we got to be careful of, but let's give us answers, solutions to like getting dressed in the morning.
Hmm.
You talked about it goes from bras to underwear. Men wear underwear too, so listen up. And what
Hmm.
what is your recommendation for that? Because we want to also be comfortable and we want to everything to fit the way it needs to fit. And we know that stretchy fabrics are what most underwear are made from.
Yeah. So, funny thing is, when you fully understand what we're dealing with in terms of chemicals and what plastic actually does to your body, especially when you wear it, it'll be really hard at first. It is. It's like getting back into the gym. You don't want to do it. You know it's really good for you. It still sucks. You still wake up and think, oh, I'd literally rather do anything but this. But then guess what? You get into it and then you take a few days off and you're like, dang, I don't want to take a day off. Like I miss the gym. It's so crazy how that your brain can change so much. And the same thing will happen with your clothes. It's going to be really hard in the beginning and you're going to have to give up that nice stretchy feeling you've been used to for your whole life. But what you'll find is once you've acclimated to more natural fabrics, that fabric that is plastic or full of chemicals, your body will actually start to reject it. You'll actually start to feel itchy. You'll feel
Mhm.
uncomfortable. And even on the mental aspect of it, you'll feel gross because you
Like
know
even
that
like when
what
we eat food that isn't good, when we eat clean and then we take in food that we know isn't good for us again. Like we've been eating clean, then we introduce something yucky again.
right. And that goes all the way back to, if you listen to the first episode we just did, it goes all the way back to your toxic load. You are never going to be perfect, but the more you can reduce toxins in your life, the more your body is freed up to be able to be as amazing as it is and fight in other areas of your body. It's when you are overwhelming and suppressing your body that it's not able to do what it needs to do because it's stretched too thin. So your mind shift will change, back to your question. Now, what I always recommend, as you said, is start with your breasts and your private areas, men especially included. There's a crazy study on dogs wearing polyester underwear that I think a lot of us have now seen, where essentially these dogs went sterile after wearing polyester underwear. And what it shows is that it has a direct impact on our natural bodily functions. And frankly, when you start talking to men about testosterone, they listen. I worked that angle with my own husband who had no desire to switch things over. It just said, at least start with your underwear. That's a really easy thing to do. It's not going to change anything other than it's going to be good for your body. So he did that. It's a really easier place to start for men because there's lots of options on the market for men.
Let's take
Now,
a break. Okay, let's take one break and then we're going to get to the next thing.
sure.
Learning so much here. Thank you, Hannah. We'll be back in just a moment. Okay, Hannah, we've been talking about bras, underwear for men and women for underwear, and the toxicity and how to reduce that. We want to start with those areas of our body to keep them safe as possible, so that our bodies can fight the other things that are just part of their job and not having these extra toxin loads that have come on in recent years. If you look at the whole life of humans, come on in recent years. So, when I said to you, I have a hard time finding bras, what am I looking for? What am I looking for in the underwear, particularly for women? Because there are men have options. They can wear boxers that are cotton. So what are we
Mhm.
looking for?
Well, because of where we are at in time in terms of technology, we don't have a ton of great options. And I'm just going to call it what it is. We don't have a ton of great options when it comes to clean fabrics that have the functionality of synthetic fibers. Now, the more we talk and the more we spread awareness, the more money, time, resources, and smarts we can dedicate to finding that next new fabric that's maybe plant based without toxic chemicals. The future will be full of options, but today, when you look for a bra or underwear, it's just not going to be as good as what you're used to in terms of functionality of synthetics. There's a reason why we want to wear plastic in everything, literally everything. It's way better for performance for athletes, right? Like they're faster when they wear synthetics because there's not as much wind, like whatever they call friction or what have you. So I just want you to know that you're going to have to give a little bit up in the beginning. The ideal bra right now, frankly, is going to be 100% organic cotton, but it's going to be a bralette. It's not going to have support. And a lot of women just can't do that. And so, what I always tell women, especially with larger chests or women who are just uncomfortable, if you have to wear your regular bra that you've been wearing that is synthetic and probably full of chemicals, I don't love that, but throw an 100% organic bralette underneath. And that sounds ridiculous, but frankly, with the amount of chemicals
Logical.
inside of our stuff,
Yeah.
it makes sense. So if you have to do that, get creative and do stuff like that. Most underwear you'll find have at least 5% synthetics in it. You're probably just not going to be able to avoid it. And that just is what it is. Again, we don't really have the materials yet to be able to realistically make a pair of underwear that can compete with synthetic underwear in terms of functionality. So don't stress over the 5%. Is it ideal? No. But are you reducing toxic load and moving towards a better alternative? Absolutely. So don't get caught up in the details, but shoot for about 5% or less in my research when it comes to synthetics and the chemicals associated.
Well, let's talk about then the next thing I'm guessing is things we sweat in, right? Where that is
Yes.
going. Like I've been using clean deodorant for 100 years. Like since I survived cancer, I don't use it. I always.
Mhm.
And so that's one thing. So that's something we put on our body. That's a whole other, someone else's mission and legacy work, right? But let's talk about the sweating that happens. And obviously, we're going to sweat the most in these areas
Mhm.
of the private areas that we're talking about. So, workout clothing,
Mm.
that's a tough one too. Like you were just talking about, athletes perform better wearing these other things. So then is it wearing a t-shirt under the workout clothing? What is the solution there? And we can't say brands, but some of
Mhm.
the most popular um, I see the advertisements where people are doing yoga and doing these things and running, and these are the clothes they're wearing. It's like, it's so toxic. And what
Mhm.
is the solution to that? Because people are really committed to their workout clothes, probably as or more committed than their bras, depending on
Oh,
how you live your life and your workout clothes.
absolutely. I work out every day and I do weightlifting, so I get it. Nothing feels the way that synthetics feel in terms of functionality. I'll say it over and over again. I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
lie. Okay? I'm not gonna lie. Working out in 100% organic cotton does not feel the same. Now, I will say, if you can quote unquote suffer through that transition, you get used to it. And frankly, it feels amazing. We were made to sweat. Sweating in organic cotton feels so primal. I can't even describe it. It's like grounding. It's like wearing bare feet on the beach. Like
Mhm.
when you take your shoes off and you put your feet in the sand, that's what it feels like to sweat in organic cotton. It feels amazing knowing that you are setting your body up for success. Now, that being said, I don't care what brand it is, I don't care what company it is. If they're using plastic, it shouldn't be put on your body. End story. So, working out, there's friction, right? There's heat. Now there's liquid. It's basically the perfect little petri dish in terms of bacteria, but also just in terms of leaching, chemical leaching. Okay, we're talking about microplastic breakdown, nanoplastics. We know nanoplastics can cross the blood brain barrier. It's a big deal, and I don't like to scare people, but I do feel that they deserve to know. You deserve to know, and you make your own choices after you know. It's the secrecy and the companies not wanting you to know that's really should be, frankly, criminal, in my opinion. So, that being said, right now, you basically are watching a race between a whole bunch of usually startup companies trying to find the next athletic wear that feels, looks, functions like synthetics, but it's made out of things like eucalyptus or castor beans or what have you. These are all really cool options. They're a little risky still because a lot of them are patented technology. I don't know what chemicals they're using, right? Like, I can't guarantee that, frankly, it's even better than plastic. And I'm just being honest here. I don't know. I don't have the answers. So I almost sometimes think about like the suffragettes and the women who were fighting for the right to vote long before they would ever be able to vote. Okay, so a lot of people have fought for things before they had a chance to actually reap
It's
the
like
reward.
planting the tree you'll never see.
Correct, for the shade, right? A good man plants trees for the future so that people in the future can have the shade of the tree. It's not for him. And so that, frankly, is also what we are working on right now. There's no perfect option. You're going to give up some things. You're not going to have the perfect fit, at least today, but that's not why we're doing what we're doing. We do this, yes, for our own bodies, but also for the future, for our kids, for their kids, that they might have better options that they're comfortable working out in, but that don't make them sick. So I think we all have to go on our own exploratory journeys of options that might be better when it comes to working out. You're going to have to test things, and frankly, your body will tell you. Brands send me stuff all the time to the point where now I don't actually accept it because it's too much, and a whole bunch of reasons. But when I wear something, now that I've sort of like quote unquote detoxed and I'm not wearing plastic every day, or rather pretty much ever, unless I'm at the beach, which is a whole nother thing, I can tell, my body will tell me this doesn't feel good. I'm itchy. I've had a rash before when I put on workout athletic wear from like a cleaner company, right? So I think there's also a lot to be said for trusting your own body and your own intuition when we don't have the current perfect options. I wish I had a better, cooler answer for like, yes, here's amazing
But that's why you're
options.
doing the work you're doing.
That's why we're doing the work we're doing, is to start this train.
Okay, let's take a break. We have just one little segment left. I could do another episode with you, but we won't. We're going to wrap this one up, and we're talking again. You have a podcast. We'll talk about that in just a minute. The Hannah Dunning Show. It's a podcast, and we'll talk more about the work that you do there and how people can find you. We'll be back in just a moment. Okay, Hannah, we are wrapping up with you. We've given this 2 episodes of conversation. We have one last segment, just 5 minutes. But one of the things I wanted to lead here with, first of all, thank you for everything you're sharing here. And you talked about how your body gets used to it, and you develop a rash if you start to wear some of these things that you freed your body up for a while. And one of the things I want to say is when we say, oh, the underwear you're wearing is making you sick, and everyone's like, I feel fine. I feel fine. And what we know is that your body can fight off your body has cancer all the time, and your body is fighting it off all the time until it doesn't. And anything that we can do to reduce the risk that all the perfection that's happening in our body to keep us alive and to keep us healthy and to fight against those cancer cells and create good cells, anything that we can do is important. So are you going to feel sick because you're wearing a bra that's not healthy for you? Probably not. Until you don't wear it, like you're saying, and then your body has a physical response to it. So we only have a few minutes left, 3 minutes left. Tell me what, you have your why about your grandmother and your legacy and your story. Everyone has to have their own reason for this being a priority. If you were to give someone the advice of like, take your own deep dive, where would they start? Not by the clothing, but in the deep dive to go, hey, is this really true? How does this make sense? This is way more than I can handle.
Right. I'll try to water this down a little because it can be overwhelming. And that's actually the opposite of beneficial, because the worst thing for your immune system is fear, right? So what I would say is get to know your body and how the body works in general. How do your breasts actually work? Let's look at hormones. Let's figure out, okay, hormones, why are they important? What happens if you have hormone imbalances? Just get familiar with how your body works, how it functions, and what happens when your body gets sick. Then go ahead and look at what it takes to make plastic. What is plastic? And I mean, it sounds really basic. It's important to ask the basic questions. What is plastic? you'll find that literally it's just a chemical combination of other chemicals, right? So you get to know, okay, how does my body function? Okay, how does it get sick? Right? What does hormonal balance do to me? And what does imbalance do to me? What is plastic made out of? What kind of chemicals are used in our clothes? Right? And then you start getting into things like, oh, wrinkle resistant, or what do most companies spray on their clothes before they ship out of the manufacturer? Formaldehyde. Okay, well, what does formaldehyde do to bodies? All of this information is really obvious and really accessible. Like you can go on PubMed and it'll be overwhelming, but you can research chemicals in clothing. Like they do studies. You can research cancer clusters for the places manufacturing your clothes. Like how are the workers being impacted who are touching these clothes every day and touching the chemicals on these clothes every day? You can take the deep dive that way, but I think really what you'll notice is the peace of mind you find when you know you're even just trying to do better for your body. Nothing can touch that. It is worth it when you get to that point. And I think that that speaks to like just where to start your journey is like go internal, figure out what resonates with you. Like
Because if
what are
it's
you?
not important to you, you won't do it. You won't stick to
No,
it. You won't even start. Right? It has
right,
to be something that's burning inside of you. And it may never. This may not be the fight that you fight in your family or in the clothing that you wear. You're going to pick something else. Maybe it's something else, but
right.
it has to mean something to you. And I think that's why I asked the question is the only way for you to learn what it means to you is to learn what it's doing to you.
Correct. And I think one thing that everyone can take from this story, it's just like when they would put lead in women's makeup or when they would put formaldehyde in milk, which by the way, they did both of those things for a long time and it was just common. That's just what they did
Lead and
because
paint
nobody
for
questioned
cribs.
it.
Yeah.
Lead and paint. And look at our lead problem now. A lot of people think the microplastic problem will be similar in terms of the toothpaste is out of the tube. But here's the thing at the end of the day is just lead with curiosity in all things. Question all things. Never be comfortable in terms of what other people tell you. Make sure it resonates with you, right? And do your own research and find out what makes sense for you. And that's a lesson you can pass on to your kids, even if you're not worried about what's in your closet. Still have people check tags. Like my kids already check tags
Yeah.
and they're not scared, but it's good to have that curiosity. Oh, what is in my clothes? Huh? What
Yeah.
is in my food? What's in my water?
Yeah.
That's that foundation going all the way back to the beginning of this conversation. That's that foundation that you can pass on to the next generation is ask questions.
Thank you for that. I have to say my face drooped a little bit because you talked about toothpaste in the plastic and I make a real big effort to have clean products on my body and I just realized my really great toothpaste that tested really high on my app is in plastic. Now, I do take lotion out of plastic when I buy it and I put it in a jar. And so at
Mhm.
least it's not sitting in plastic as long.
Right.
You know, I do these things, but I'm going to have to do the same thing with my toothpaste.
Well, real quick before we go, one thing
We
too
got
is like,
10 seconds.
okay, the sauna effect with wearing plastic in saunas, the greatest way to detox with plastic is to get in a sauna. Just make sure you're not wearing plastic in the sauna.
Good information. Thank you so much. I'll have you back again. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Lisa.